For a lot of us, our understanding of court proceedings is basically based on what you see on TV. But in this week's Know the Law segment, Tom Sinas is here to talk to us about the actual roles of the judge and jury. Tom, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Christian. So you're right. You see these characters on TV, judges, juries, lawyers, and sometimes what you see on TV isn't really an accurate representation of what goes on in a courtroom.
How so?
Well, let's start with what a judge is and what they do.
Okay.
I think the easiest way to think about this is that a judge is like the referee of the proceedings, of the game, so to speak, that's going on in the courtroom. So that means that the judge is the one who is responsible for setting the rules of how that trial is going to go and making sure that the people who are participating, namely the lawyers and the witnesses, are following the rules. A lot of people think that judges decide disputed issues of fact.
Right.
That's generally not true. In the United States, you have a constitutional right to a jury trial. Some people choose to have those issues decided by a judge, but most people choose to have issues of fact. That is, questions of what happened when, who did what, decided by a jury. And a judge doesn't decide that. A judge makes sure that the people who are trying to prove what happened are following the rules.
So the judge makes sure there's enough evidence for it to go to trial, and then it would go to trial.
That's right. So there's a series of rules that are pre-trial rules, and we call those the Michigan court rules. And they're the rules that the lawyers in the case have to follow, even during trial, but particularly to get their case to trial. Then when a case gets to trial, there's a whole other set of rules, and we call those the rules of evidence. And those are the rules that have to be followed to determine whether certain evidence comes in. And it's the judge who's in charge of making sure that all those rules are followed so that when evidence is presented to the jury, it's done the right way. Okay, so that leaves us with the jury. What is the jury's role? The jury's role is so fundamental because it's ultimately the jury who determines fact questions. So in a murder case, it'll be obviously the jury who decides, is the defendant guilty? In a breach of contract case, it'll be the jury who decides, did one side breach the contract or the other? We give, in our constitutional system, we give juries made up of lay people from around our community the power to decide questions of fact. And that's really what makes our constitutional system so different than any other system in the world.
The people decide.
That's right. The people decide. And in our country, the jury is really the only place where people can be on equal footing with whomever else is on the other side, whether it's big government, big corporations, individuals, no matter what. When you get into a jury, you are treated equally and you have an opportunity to have your dispute resolved by that jury, and that is uniquely American.
Tom, always an interesting discussion, and if somebody has a question about the law, they can call your office.
Anytime, 616-301-3333. They can find us online at sinasdramis.com or shoot us an email at info@sinasdramis.com.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Christian.